People are gonna think all you do is bite. Because all you do when I show you in these videos is bite. You need to stop biting. He's just so special. Hello everybody, welcome back to another YouTube video. Today, we are doing a pretty fun video, which I feel like is kind of rare actually. I feel like a lot of the times my videos are more informative. They're either like me just talking and giving information, or they're like a vlog. But today is going to be a fun one because today we are going to be ranking all of the scenes in the Sea of Monsters. At least the ones in the book, obviously. Maybe I'll redo this video after season 2 comes out. If they add any new scenes, we'll have to see. But for now, we're just doing it based off the book. I haven't done a tier list video, I think in like 9, maybe 10 months since I ranked the characters in the show of Percy Jackson based off of season 1. So it's been a minute, but tier lists are super fun. And I'm kind of excited to get into this. Sea of Monsters has definitely been on my mind a lot recently, especially because it's the most recent Percy Jackson book that I've reread, as you can see in my reading vlog, which I want to do more of, by the way, so you can keep an eye out for some more of those coming soon. And in my reread of Sea of Monsters, I realized, even though it's the shortest Percy Jackson book, there are like a lot of scenes jam-packed into this one tiny book. Like, I was actually kind of shocked at how much I had forgotten and how much was fit into the book. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be ranking the scenes from the Sea of Monsters. And when it comes to like making the selection of the scenes, I did my best to do like the obvious fight scenes, and then there's like the generalized scenes I feel like that everyone sort of talks about, if that makes sense. If I forgot like a very specific, a very niche scene, I apologize. Forgive me, okay? First things first, let's go over the tiers that I have made. We've got God tier, which is like S tier. Those are like the best scenes, in my opinion. Scenes that I definitely want to see done very well in the show, and scenes that are just like iconic. Next, we have Prophecy Fulfilled. Those are scenes that are like good, really good, right? But, you know, there might be a flaw, or they just might not be scenes that I care about as much, but they're still like incredible scenes, or like scenes that had me gagged, right? Next, we have Titan Slaying. So scenes that slay, not necessarily S or A tier, but they slay. There's a little bit of a slay going on. Next, we have Underdog Heroes. Those are the scenes that are like they're there, right? But like, if for some reason the show decided to change this scene or remove the scene entirely, you know, I wouldn't care that much. So like an example of Underdog Heroes from The Lightning Thief would probably be like the Krusty scene. It's there. I never really cared for it in the book, so it didn't really affect me when they changed it in the show. That'd be a good example of Underdog Heroes. And then last, we have Tartarus Pit. Obviously, the bottom tier scenes I don't care about really. Scenes that aren't like super diehard important to me. If they cut it or changed it in the show, I might not even notice. So those are our tiers. Let's go ahead and get ranking. So, okay, the scenes at the bottom of this, they're not in chronological order. They're like on a random shuffle. So we're starting with the bronze mechanical bulls that are at Camp Half-Blood when Percy, Tyson, and Annabeth arrive. I hate to do this so early on. I mean, okay, it's between Underdog Heroes and Tartarus Pit. I'm leaning Tartarus Pit just because I don't think there's gonna be a lot of scenes in this tier, and I want to have something in that tier. And my reasoning for this, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, it wouldn't bother me if they got rid of this or changed it because the movie attempted to do it. One of the few things that the Sea of Monsters movie like did that was accurate to the book was like the mechanical bronze bulls at Camp Half-Blood. So like I've already seen it. Right? I've already seen it. So I will be okay and I will live if they make it a different monster or they make it something like cooler or more fascinating. The only interesting thing about this scene that I can remember off the top of my head right now is when Tyson jumps in front of Percy or something and Percy thinks like, oh no, Tyson. But like then we find out that Tyson can withstand fire. I think that's when we find that out. So like that's cool. But we can learn that at some point later on or in a different way. We don't have to learn that here. You know what I mean? Like, they could literally replace this with anything. They could replace the bowls with any other threat. And it wouldn't affect me much. It wouldn't affect the story much. So guys, not to start off strong, but I think I'm going to start with the mechanical bronze bowls, putting them in the bottom tier. They're in Tartarus's pit. Next, we have Cece's Island and Spa. This one's tricky because this is like a very generalized, broad scene. A lot happens here. Although it is really just like one chapter, it's only a couple pages long. They do a lot of things. And there's certain things that I hope they keep and they better keep. For example, Percy turning into a guinea pig, obviously. Annabeth's makeover, very excited for that. I personally am really excited to hopefully see Blackbeard. I think that that'll be a really good gag because I remember rereading the book and being like, pause, Blackbeard's in this? I think that'd be really fun to see in the show. But then there's other things that they could absolutely change that like wouldn't really affect me. Like they could change like bits and pieces of Cersei's Island. They could change like certain rules. They could change quite a lot of things to make it honestly a lot more interesting than it is in the book. On my reread, I remember being like, Cersei's Island is only like 5 or 6 pages or something. Similar to how I felt when I reread The Lightning Thief and I was like, the casino scene is only a couple pages long and everyone freaks out about it like it's one of the most important part of the books when it's a really, really short segment. So I'd be down for them to add things to Cersei's Island to make it more interesting, to fill a whole episode. That's really important. They could change so many things about Cersei's Island, but as long as I see Percy as a guinea pig and Annabeth get a makeover and hopefully Blackbeard, I'd be fine with it. So that being said, I'm between Titan slaying and prophecy fulfilled. I'm gonna go prophecy fulfilled because although I just said I'm fine with them changing a couple of things, there are certain things that I want them to hit and for them to hit correctly. I have at least 3 conditions for this entire scene that I want them to do in the show. So that means the scene is a little bit more important to me than others, right? And plus, it's a really fun scene. It's a fun moment for Percy and Annabeth. Percy turning into a guinea pig is honestly just so iconic in and of itself. It's gotta be in one of the top tiers, right? Prophecy fulfilled. Good to go. Next, we have the second chariot race scene in the book. This is the one that I think Percy and Annabeth work on together, I'm pretty sure. Kind of forgot that there were 2 chariot races in the book until I reread it. This might be a hot take. I'm gonna put it in Underdog Heroes, right? It's there. It's fun. Great to see Percy and Annabeth working together. We love a good Perciveth moment, but it's there. You know what I mean? Not much. I don't feel like much happens from it. If anything, I wouldn't be shocked if they change a lot about this chariot race, the second one, because I think the first chariot race is more important to the story in a way with like how it ends. And I feel like doing a second chariot race might feel a bit redundant in a TV show. So like I wouldn't be shocked if they alter this a little bit, if they do something to change it up a little bit. That wouldn't shock me. And it also wouldn't really upset me. But I like the scene in the book, you know, it's fun. It's a good, fun, lighthearted thing to add to the end before we get like the shocking ending of the Sea of Monsters with Thalia. So I'll put it in Underdog Heroes. I like it. It's there. I'm not tied to it in any way, shape, or form. I don't really have any conditions for it where it's like they have to do this. I could part with it if I needed to, right? Especially if they replaced it with something better. That's fine. Go ahead. Next, we have the Grey Sisters taxi. Now, okay, this is another thing that the movie did correctly. Well, okay, I use the term correctly very loosely. The movie did do something like this, right? So it's something we've seen already. In the book, it's like fine and fun. I think the show is going to be able to elevate it because like it's a lot more fun when you can see things like this happening instead of having to like read about it. Reading this scene though does cause me a little bit of pain because I heavily relate to Tyson when it comes to his motion sickness in this scene. I get motion sickness in almost every car I step into. So like I kind of get like secondhand motion sickness low key when I read this scene because that's just all I'm thinking about. But again, it's iconic. It's at least iconic enough that the movie did it. So that's definitely saying something. But for me, on a personal level, I feel like I get secondhand motion sickness when I read it. So I'm going to put it in Titan slaying. It slays. Great scene. Very excited to see it in the show. Not one of my personal favorites because it's like, trigger warning, I also get motion sick and I hate being reminded of it. So we're going to put it in Titan slaying. I think that's a good one to put there. Next, I have a picture of Tyson, and this is going to represent the scene where Tyson is claimed as Poseidon's son. Now, okay, reading the book before the show ever came out, right? I feel like this scene is a very small scene. It's kind of a passing scene. Obviously, it's a big deal that Percy finds out he has a brother. Tyson finds out he's son of Poseidon. Like, it's definitely a big deal, but it can feel kind of passive when you read it. However, when I reread this book after season 1 of the show had come out, I thought about how it looked when Percy was claimed by Poseidon, and I applied that to thinking about Tyson being claimed as Poseidon. And I'm very curious to see if they change it at all or add anything to it to make it more dramatic in the show, because it is a big deal. Like, I do think it's a big deal. And I have come to the conclusion that Tyson is, I think, my favorite part of Sea of Monsters. I just find Tyson to be a very good addition to the book. One of my favorite things in the book is seeing the relationship between Tyson and Annabeth grow and progress, and also seeing Tyson and Percy's relationship grow as well. So in my reread of Sea of Monsters, I was able to picture Tyson as Daniel Dimer, and I think my love for the character of Tyson grew tenfold, just like being able to get a really strong visual of the character in my mind. And so the scene where he's claimed as Poseidon, it's like it can be a passive scene in the book, but it's a scene that I'm very much looking forward to in the show, if that makes sense. So I kind of want to put it in Prophecy Fulfilled. I feel like that's a really high place to put it, but this is my tier list. I feel like that's something I do have to like put a disclaimer for, especially after the comments on my last tier list video I did forever ago of the Percy Jackson characters. Oh my God, people were like really mean. They're like, this is wrong, this is bad, this is a bad tier list. Hey, it's opinionated, okay? You want to rank the scenes of Sea of Monsters, you go ahead and do that. You go ahead and make a tier list and rank them on your own. That's all fine and dandy. If you want to put the bronze bulls up in S tier, I'm happy for you. If that's something you absolutely need to see in the show and that's your favorite scene from the entire book, I'm happy for you. But this is just my tier list. So I'm putting Tyson up in Prophecy Fulfilled. Because it's not just Tyson getting claimed, it's also Percy's reaction to it, the entire camp's reaction to it. Yeah, I like that scene. I like where I put it. Next, I have a picture of Lin-Manuel Miranda. That is going to represent the scene of Hermes coming onto the beach to talk to Percy, giving him the bag with like the thermos and the vitamins and all that jazz. But this scene also includes, it's kind of tricky. This scene kind of also includes the way that Annabeth, Tyson, and Percy go to the Princess Andromeda, right? So that's also included in my mind when I'm thinking of this scene. So with that in mind, let's think. Okay, so this is an iconic scene and I want to see it, right? Actually, Screen Rant just came out with an exclusive like yesterday that Lynn shared in a press tour for something else, I think for the Mufasa movie, that he has filmed all of his scenes for Percy Jackson already. Like he filmed them, he's done, they did his scenes. So filming update. So we know for sure this scene is going to be in the movie. I really liked Lynn's scenes in season 1. Not that I ever doubted him as Hermes, but it was definitely an interesting casting choice. But I really think he nailed it, especially the scenes in the casino, even though the casino episode is absolutely not my favorite episode of season 1 at all in the slightest. The scenes with Lynn, I think, were incredible. Him, whenever anybody's talking to him about Luke, is actually really great acting in my opinion. So I'm always down to like have another scene with Hermes. So I'm very much looking forward to this scene in the show. It's a great scene in the book. It's always fun when a god shows up. However, there are some things that like I want to make sure they keep. And then there's some things that I'd be okay with if they changed. For example, Percy obviously has to get the thermos. He has to get the vitamins. Whatever else Hermes gives him, I can't remember. But the things that he gets in the book, like I need them to keep that, right? That needs to be kept the same. Do I need to see Lin-Manuel Miranda in like super short running shorts like Hermes is in the book? No. I think I'm okay. I think if they change his outfit, I will live and I'll be all right. I am fine if they add things to this. I know in season 1, like, they talked a lot about things that we don't really discuss until the 5th Percy Jackson book, but I loved that. I love when they add things from future books into the show, because obviously it's not something you can add when you're writing the book. You don't know what the 5th book is going to be when you're on book 2. So I hope they talk more about Luke. I'm down for a more intense scene. I've talked before in other videos where I've like updated the filming of season 2, where I think it's possible they might change how Percy and Annabeth and Tyson get to the Princess Andromeda. I still think the Hippocampy will exist and be a part of the show, but I don't think they're going to leave straight from Camp Half-Blood's Beach. That's just me though, and that's just a fan theory, right? So if they change stuff like that, that doesn't affect me at all. I really could not care less, right? Even if they took the Hippocampy out, I think if they removed the Hippocampy in total, that would probably upset me, especially because they do become an important part later on in the show / books. Like, they definitely do need to introduce the Hippocampy, right? The most important part of this scene to me is Hermes and Percy getting the things he needs from Hermes. And I'd be down for them to add things about like Luke and like talk more about Luke and all that jazz. I also would understand if they cut the bit of the snakes. I would understand if they cut that bit. And if they cut the snakes, it wouldn't hurt me either. I feel like a lot of people would get upset over that. I personally wouldn't care. If I had to choose, if you were like red pill, blue pill, you get Hermes and Percy interacting with Martha and whatever the other snake's name is that I can't remember. And it's like a funny, goofy scene, and the snakes are like occupying most of the scene, and like it's a bit. But the other pill is there are no snakes, but you get a better, like more in-depth talk with Percy and Hermes about Luke, and you get like really good character moments. I think I'm taking this pill. This one. So I'd be fine if they cut the snakes, right? So that being said, I'm going to put this one in Titan slaying. Probably should be more in, actually, you know what? I might put it in underdog heroes. No. Because Hermes being in the book is a little bit too important to me to just be like, oh yeah, that scene is there, right? It's a little bit more than that, but I'd be fine if they changed quite a lot of things, right? Like, it wouldn't affect me. I wouldn't cry. I would live, right? So, okay, we're going to put the whole Hermes on the beach scene in Titan slaying. Next, we've got the Hydra scene. So this includes the Hydra, monster donuts, all that jazz. This is a pretty good scene, pretty iconic. I think I am most excited to see them do the Hydra and see how they do it compared to the first Percy Jackson movie, because I'm always interested to see what they're going to do and how they're going to actively make creative decisions to stay as true to the book as they can and as true to the book as they want to, but to also not be too similar to the movies, because they don't want people watching the show and thinking of the movies. And thankfully, that is something that we can escape if and when we get to season 3. That'll be very exciting. But they did do a Hydra in the Lightning Thief movie, right? So I'm curious and I'm excited to see how they do that in the show. I think the Hydra scene is iconic. I think it's sick. I think Monster Donuts is a really fun little like brand type thing to put into the show. I want a t-shirt that says Monster Donuts on it. So if anybody watching this runs an Etsy shop, please get working on a Monster Donuts t-shirt and I will buy it immediately. Similar to the scene that I was literally just talking about, I've talked about in other filming update videos that I think they're going to be adding like a Clarice and Percy fight scene right after Clarice helps kill the Hydra, right? So, and I've been very excited for that fight scene. I think that's going to be really great. So I'm obviously okay with them changing bits and adding bits to this whole Hydra Monster Donut scene sequence. I feel like Hydra also belongs in Titan slaying, because it's not like my favorite scene in the book, right? Like, we're not even anywhere near it. In fact, actually, while I was doing my reading vlog, I said before we got into the book, what I remembered of Sea of Monsters was that it was fine and it was good, but I remembered it like feeling kind of slow in the middle, or like kind of not as fun and exciting in the middle of the book. And then when I was rereading it, when I got to the monster donut and the Hydra scene, I was like, this is the part that I remember feeling very slow. And I'm not quite sure why I feel that way, but there's just something about it that's like kind of like the underdog heroes tier. It's like, yeah, we're here, we're fighting a Hydra. Yeah, this is happening. But like the book doesn't really start get going for me until the Sea of Monsters. Like they enter the Sea of Monsters. So we'll put it in Titan Slaying. It could go into Underdog Heroes, but I'm going to have it at Titan Slaying just because I feel like it's a little too iconic and exciting to be in Underdog Heroes. I feel like it has to be in Titan Slaying. It slays. It's a slay scene. But they could absolutely add and change things, and I wouldn't cry. Next, we have the Laestrygonian Giants, a word that I absolutely had to Google how to say when I was rereading the book. And I still don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, so give me a break. These, I think, are easily an Underdog Heroes tier. They very well could be Tartarus Pit, you know? They could completely change the threat at Merryweather Prep. I wouldn't bat an eye. I wouldn't, right? I don't really care. These are like the cannibal giants that Percy has to play dodgeball with at the very beginning of the book, in case you forgot. I don't really care. It's the first monster of the book. They're kind of like not that important. They don't like show up again or anything, I don't think. They're just there, right? And that's what the Underdogs hero tier is for. They're just there. They're fun. It's a cool thing to see. I'd love to see it. But if they cut it, I'd live. I'd live to see another day. I would. I actually feel like the more important part of this whole scene is like just seeing Percy and Tyson together at school and seeing how they become friends. Like this image kind of encapsulates just all of the Merryweather College prep scene at the beginning of the book, right? And even though I do like want to see that, it is kind of just there. Like you're kind of just waiting for them to get to Camp Half-Blood already, right? So not too much to say on that one. I think it's where it deserves to be, right? Next, we have one of the images of the Princess Andromeda. This one represents when we see Luke at the end of the book, after they give the fleece back to Clarice. She gets on a plane, she's out of there. Luke shows up in Miami and he kidnaps Percy and Annabeth and Tyson and Grover, right? And takes them onto his ship. This scene doesn't really have like a lot of action in it per se. Well, okay, actually I lied, it does. We've got Luke kidnapping them, and then there's the whole reveal of Luke being like, well, I was gonna let you have the fleece after I used it, of course. And like you get the whole what was Luke planning reveal. You get one of actually my favorite Percy moments from the book where he like secretly starts an Iris message to camp while Luke is talking so that they know that he's the one that poisoned Thalia's tree. I think that that's a great Percy moment. And then of course you get Luke and Percy one-on-one. Right? This is a great scene. And again, I feel like it's a scene that could be read pretty passively, or at least it's a scene that like people may not necessarily think of first when they think of Sea of Monsters. Like if you said to somebody, what's your favorite scene in the Sea of Monsters? They're probably going to say like the siren scene or Cersei's Island. They're not necessarily going to say, yo, the scene where Luke has like a whole long speech and then him and Percy fight one-on-one. But not only is this a great scene for Luke, I think it's a great scene for Percy. I'm very excited to see how they do it in the show, both from an acting standpoint and from like the stunt choreography fighting standpoint. I'm very excited to see Luke and Percy fight, right? And although there's definitely things that they could add and change to the scene, and like, again, it wouldn't really affect me. To be fair, I'm pretty much normally an advocate for the changes that they've made so far when it comes to the book to the show. Like I liked a lot of the changes in season 1. I definitely had, some issues, like again, the casino scene, the whole casino episode. Every time they cut to Grover, I was like, okay, I don't care. I don't care. This could have been cut out of the show. I don't care. So there's definitely some changes that aren't necessarily my favorite, but more often than not, the changes that they make from the book, I like and enjoy, right? So there's definitely things that they could change and add or whatever. But I'm just very excited to see Luke. I'm excited to see Charlie play like the full-on villain of Luke. I think Charlie's a great actor, so I think that he's going to really deliver on scenes like this. And I know I'm talking a lot about the show when I'm talking about these book scenes, but if you watched my reading vlog again, you know that while I was rereading the book, I was 100% the entire time just picturing the show, picturing the actors in the show, picturing how the show is going to do the things that I was reading. And that actually made the book a lot more enjoyable to me because unfortunately, I do think Sea of Monsters is my least favorite of the 5 books. And I mean that with no offense. I still think Sea of Monsters is a really fun story. But like, I definitely like the other ones more, right? However, rereading the book with the show in mind, with the actors in mind, it enhanced the book by like tenfold for me. I had so much more fun reading it and picturing these actors portraying these characters and like thinking how these scenes were going to go. I just had a lot more fun picturing the show in my head. And this scene, this specific scene, really got me excited in my reread. So again, this might be a hot take, this might be a crazy take. I'm putting this scene in God tier. This is a scene that I loved reading and I'm really looking forward to in the show. Like, this is probably one of my most anticipated scenes of the show, especially with all the things they could add to it, the way that they can enhance the fight scenes, because reading a fight scene only does so much for you, right? Like, reading a fight scene is one thing, but seeing it, having somebody actually choreograph the fight scenes, like, it's just better when you can watch it, right? So I think the show will just enhance this scene even more. Very excited for it. It's a great scene in the book. I like it a lot. Next, this one actually kind of goes in chronological order. We've got the party ponies showing up on the Princess Andromeda and saving everybody. This is a great scene. This is also another scene that I want a t-shirt made out of. So again, if you run an Etsy shop, please start working on a Party Ponies t-shirt as well, because I will also buy that. I think the Party Ponies are so fun and I hope they keep them. And like, I know it's going to be like difficult because like you've got to have like what, at least 20 centaurs. That's a lot for like the graphics team to do, right? But yeah, I really love this scene. I think it's fun. They could change things. They could add things because it's not like too, I feel like it is a very surface level scene in a way, right? Like not too much happens. It's mostly just like the party ponies showing up and saving them and then getting them out of there. So changing and adding things wouldn't upset me, but like, I just hope the party ponies exist, right? That's all you can really ask for. So I think this one also goes in Titan slaying because I don't want them to change like too much, but like, I know there's definitely probably stuff they're going to add and change in it. Just as long as the party ponies show up, I'm chilling. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a slay scene. It's definitely a slay. Next, we have a picture of Polyphemus, however you want to say his name. I don't really know. This is meant to kind of just represent the whole scene where they get onto his island. I didn't really know how to like divide the whole Monster Island scene into multiple parts. So this encapsulates like, you know, them sneaking in on sheep, the whole nobody bit, them running away, Tyson being alive, them fighting Polyphemus and getting on a boat, and then the boat doesn't work because Polyphemus sinks it, and then the hippocampy show up. So it's a lot, right? And it's funny because I do wish I probably divided it a little bit more because that's like a lot in one picture to digest, meaning that there's also a lot that I'd be down for them to add, down for them to change, like whatever. I feel like the most important bits are Tyson's reveal of him being alive. That one's fun. I hope the whole Annabeth being nobody bit is done really well. I feel like that's a great moment for Annabeth's character. All I can really ask from this whole Monster Island scene is that it looks good, that Polyphemus looks good, and that the fight choreography looks good, because all of this really relies on Polyphemus being a believable, like, big giant cyclops. And that's definitely something that could be hit or miss when you're doing like any sort of CGI or even practical effects, right? It's until we know what he looks like, it's definitely something that's up in the air for right now. So if Polyphemus looks good, if his cave looks good, like they could change so many small things. They could change bits with Clarice. They could change bits with Grover. I do want the reunion between Grover and Percy to be really like dramatic, and hopefully I want it to make me cry. And I feel like it could. I feel like Arian and Walker, their connection, just like as really good friends, definitely bleeds into Percy and Grover. And I feel like it definitely could make me cry depending on how the writers write it. There's not too much that I expect or am like, I die hard need this for this scene, right? This whole sequence, like there's so much they could add and change. So long as all I care about is Percy Grover reunion, Annabeth getting a good nobody moment, and a good fight scene. Those are the 3 things that I really want from it. So I think, I feel bad putting this here. And I think it's only ending up in Underdog Heroes because it is such a broad scene. Like this is like about 5 or 6 small scenes packed into one picture on this tier list, right? So like, obviously the whole part of them being on Monster Island is not just there, right? But like, there's lots of things that they could change and I wouldn't cry about. I wouldn't be upset or anything. It could, honestly, maybe I'll put it in Titan slaying because I do have some things I really want them to keep, right? Annabeth's nobody. I'd be down for them to add things. I feel like I screwed up by making this so broad, and also it doesn't help that I'm incredibly indecisive. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put it in Underdog Heroes. And I know that feels kind of crazy because I've been describing all of these scenes as it's there, but this is kind of like the pinnacle of the whole book. Like this is the whole point. But that being said, I feel like outside of the fact that this is what they're aiming for in the entire book, there is a lot that they could add. There is a lot that they could change when it comes to the show. And I wouldn't really be upset. I feel like any changes they make to the whole Monster Island scene would probably enhance it a lot more. I think one of the cons of the Sea of Monsters book is that there is so much stuff packed into a very, very, very short book. And I feel like the show actually has a lot of space to expand on certain things that the book didn't necessarily get the chance to do in a way, just because the book is so short. And hopefully, fingers crossed, season 2 of the show has longer episodes and a little bit better pacing. But also, I don't really like the pacing in the Sea of Monsters book, so I don't care. I just feel like although getting to Monster Island is literally the point of the book pretty much to get the Golden Fleece, I think that there's a lot that could be added. There's a lot that could be changed for the better. So I think I'm good with that one being in Underdog Heroes, actually. Sorry. Sorry if that upsets anybody. Next, we have this scene where Percy and Tyson and Annabeth get onto the Princess Andromeda for the first time at the beginning of the book. And if I'm remembering correctly, when they get on the ship, they have no idea that Luke is going to be on it. They thought that it was like a regular cruise ship, but it's not. And they kind of have a bad feeling. And then they walk around a little bit and they start to see monsters everywhere. And then when they're like, we should really get off this ship, they hear Luke. And it's like a big sort of gag reveal. And then I think Luke kidnaps them and there's a lot of talking before they escape, right? I really liked this scene, quite honestly. I feel like the show can also enhance it a lot by making it super spooky feeling if they wanted to. I think they could go one of 2 ways. They're either going to make it kind of really spooky and oh, there's monsters everywhere, this is scary. Or they're going to go really big into the whole cruise ship vibe and make it sort of more silly. Either way, I think this is a good scene. I really honestly am a fan of whenever Luke is in a scene. I feel like he just is a great character and adds a lot to the scenes that he's in. I also love a good gasp moment when they're like, oh my God, Luke's on the ship. And I hope that people that don't know the book watch the show and they're like, Luke. So I think I want to put this here, to be quite honest with you. I think I want it in Prophecy Fulfilled purely for the fact that I hope they keep it a secret that Luke is on that ship until Percy and Annabeth and Tyson find it out. Now, the show might tell us ahead of time. I feel like they did that a lot in season 1 where like the trio kind of knew what they were getting into before they got into it. And it didn't really bother me as much as it bothered a lot of other people. But like, I do love a good shock, gag, plot twist moment. I hope they kind of keep that with this scene. I also just love a good villain. I love a good villain getting a good villain speech. So anytime I get to see Luke have a little speech, I'm always down for it. So I'll put it in Prophecy Fulfilled. A scene I'm very much looking forward to. I don't want them to change too much, but they probably will, and I am okay with that. It's just something I'm looking forward to seeing. So we're going to put it in Prophecy Fulfilled. Next, we have the entire scene where they're entering the Sea of Monsters, right? Them on the ironclad ship, Clarice is like manning the thing and Percy's like yelling at her, and then they go one way and the ship starts to like go down, they go into a whirlpool or whatever. And it's interesting. This one is kind of a lot, I feel like, for me to read in the book because it's just like you're just reading the action. I think I do enjoy reading dialogue a little bit more than I enjoy reading the action sometimes because I think reading action, it takes a lot more out of you because you have to be picturing it in your head versus like when you're reading dialogue, like it's just a lot easier to picture people talking than picture certain things that are like being described to you, if that makes any sense. But that makes me really excited for this scene in the show. This is also probably one of my most anticipated scenes in the show just because I'm excited to see how they do it. I'm excited to see like how they create the monsters, what the monsters are going to look like. I'm excited to see how they just kind of create the world of the Sea of Monsters. And I'm excited to see all the action. I'm excited to see the action on the water. I think that's going to be super exciting. I know they have a lot of people involved in the crew that were also involved in the show Black Sails. That also like does a lot of water-based, like, I guess air quote fight scenes, but it's more just like action scenes, I guess. So I have a lot of hope for this scene too. Again, this might be a crazy take. I think I'm putting it in God tier. I think that if they do it well, and if the visuals are done well, this scene in the show could be one of the best scenes in Percy Jackson in terms of like the action. I want to see a big action piece. I just want to see a lot of like intense action on my screen. And I think they could give me that. I'm also excited to see like Clarice in action as a character. I think that will be fun. This scene, I'm also going to go ahead and say includes Clarice and Ares having a conversation, and I'm always down to see a god. You guys know that. So yeah, I'm going to put this one in God tier. Lots to look forward to. Can't really think of any cons. So yeah, God tier it goes. Next is the siren scene. I don't even think we need to talk much about this. You guys know where it's going. It's going in the very front. None of these tiers are in order, by the way, at all. But we are going to put the siren scene at the very front of God tier. The siren scene is obviously one of the most iconic scenes in the Sea of Monsters. Arguably one of the most iconic scenes in the 5-book franchise, right? It's something that a lot of people talk about. It's something that a lot of people are looking forward to, right? And I had kind of forgotten the specifics of the siren scene until I reread it. And then I reread it and I was like, oh my God, yeah. Yeah, this scene is phenomenal across the board. So many things about it are great. Like, first and foremost, it's a really great Percabeth moment. It's a great moment for both like Percy and Annabeth individually. We get to see Percy use his powers, and that's always super exciting. But it's also a great moment for the two of them. Percy saving Annabeth. This is just like classic textbook Percabeth, good stuff, you know? They could do it one-to-one, word for word from the book, and I'd be totally okay. Once again, I'm sure they're going to add and change things to the siren scene, but I'm expecting and hoping that it'll just enhance the scene and make it even better. A lot of people on the Percy Jackson like crew talk about how much they love Percabeth, like the writers and the executive producers and Rick himself. Like, we're well aware that everybody on this team very much cares about Percabeth, so I don't think they do anything to jeopardize Percabeth, and they know that the siren scene is important. So I don't think they'd really do anything to make it bad. I think it's in good hands. I'm prepared and I'm ready for it. Next, we have a picture of the Stymphalian birds to represent the first chariot race. I think that I care more about the first chariot race scene in the book than the second one. And similar to the Sea of Monsters scene, I'm mostly just excited to see a good action set piece. Like, I really enjoyed the capture the flag scene in the first season, right? I think they did it really well. And I only expect for the action scenes to be like better as we progress throughout the show. So I'm very excited to see the chariot race. I bet it's going to be like, I don't even know how they're going to do it. We've seen very, very small bits of it. I think the most we've seen from season 2 is from the chariot race scene, and it looks great. I think they built the set, so that's really cool. I just want to see some good action, right? I can't really remember any words or anything that are exchanged during this part of the book. I just remember the chariot race scene, and then birds attack, and then Clarice wins. That's about all I remember. So we're gonna put it in Titan slaying, because it's a slay scene. It slays. They could change things. I wouldn't really care. I just want to see some good action. That's all I want to see. That's about all I could ask for when it comes to a chariot race scene. Last, but certainly not least, is the final scene of the book, actually. Thalia's tree. Thalia coming back to life. I think it goes without saying. That's a god tier scene. I think we can all agree that when we read Sea of Monsters for the first time and we got to the end of the book and it goes, I'm Thalia Grace, daughter of Zeus, or whatever she says, gag. Literally gagged. However old you were, whether you were 10 or 25, gag, right? Audible gasp. I need to feel an audible gasp come out of me when I watch this in the show, even though I know it's coming. I need to feel shocked and right? I need this scene to elicit emotion from me. And I believe in them. I think they can do it. It's just very important for me that this scene is done so well. Cause like, you're introducing the character of Thalia. Even if we get flashbacks throughout the season, this is like the introduction to the character of Thalia. You gotta nail this. You gotta nail it. And it's iconic. It's literally so iconic. And mind you, doing this well could help you get renewed for a season 3, right? So like there's kind of like a lot riding on the ending of this season. You've got to do it good. So heavily anticipated, right? Just a great scene. You're gagged in the book. I'm very heavily anticipating seeing it in the show. So obviously, it's got to go in God tier. So that concludes our ranking for the scenes in the Sea of Monsters. Running through the tier list real quick, at the very bottom, in Tartarus's pit, we've got the mechanical bulls. Couldn't care less, really. Next, we've got the underdog heroes. A tier that's there. They could probably change bits of it, and I'd be fine. We've got the second chariot race scene. We've got the Laestrygonian giants at the beginning of the book. And we've got Monster Island. Fair enough. Next, moving on up, we have Titan slaying. Scenes that are slays. Could have some changes to them, but the scenes slay already in the book. The Grey Sisters, of course, Hermes on the beach, the Hydra scene, the party ponies, and the first chariot race. All great scenes. Scenes that can stand on their own, but if they change some stuff, hey, that's okay, right? Next, we have Prophecy Fulfilled. Iconic scenes, scenes I personally loved a lot, scenes I'm very looking forward to. Circe's Island, of course. Tyson getting claimed by Poseidon, and them boarding the Princess Andromeda for the very first time. Not necessarily super iconic scenes, but scenes I'm very looking forward to. And of course, God tier. Scenes that are really, really good already. Scenes that I cannot wait to see in the show. Scenes that I love the most from the book. The siren scene. Duh. Luke kidnapping them and bringing them onto the Princess Andromeda, and Luke and Percy having a one-on-one fight. Them entering the Sea of Monsters. Once again, I just want to see a good action set piece, right? I just want to see some good action. And of course, Thalia being alive. I think that's a pretty good tier list, you guys. I think that's not bad. I'm sure there are things that you guys disagree with. There's probably things I disagree with. Ask me again tomorrow and my opinions could obviously change, right? But I think all in all, That was a pretty decent tier list. Pretty decent. Comment down below if there's any scene that I placed at a certain tier that you just absolutely disagree with and think that I'm crazy for putting it there. I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of people telling me that I put Monster Island way too low, and you're probably right. You're probably right. All I ask is that you be nice about it when you disagree. Okay? Let me know what you think of this tier list. Let me know where you would put certain scenes. I'm very curious to see what you guys think. As of the time that I'm filming this, next week, we will be celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Percy Jackson Season 1 coming out. I have a very fun video planned for the anniversary where I'm going to be reacting to your hot takes about Percy Jackson Season 1. There's a Google form that you can fill out in my description if you want to share your hot takes with me and possibly make it into my video. So make sure you check that out if you want to be a part of it. I will probably close the Google form on like the 14th or 15th of December so that I can like film and not miss any. So if you're watching this before like December 15th, make sure you fill it out so that your hot take could possibly make it into my video. It's going to be an interesting one. It's definitely going to be opinionated, so that's going to be really fun. Make sure you follow me on my other social medias, as well as checking out the podcast that I have with my boyfriend. And of course, checking out my Patreon where I do commentary tracks and reaction videos for movies and TV shows. It's a great time over there, so make sure you check that out. But that pretty much does it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.